Many thanks for your time. Welcome back to the marketplace. Let's settle now for our very first story. SKT Aeroshata has become the first local drone operating company to be licensed by the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority for commercial activity. At the presentation of the certificate by the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, Managing Director of SKT Aeroshata lauded the regulator's efforts in supporting drone technology in the country.
The company was issued license for commercial usage in the areas of agriculture, mining and construction after undergoing all 5 phases of the certification process by the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority. Derek Annan is the Managing Director of SKT Aeroshata Company, operators of the drones.
I think that to be certified gives us a certain credibility when we are approaching customers in different industries, for example, agriculture, construction, mining, any industry that you go to, you can just show that you do have a certificate. And also, it will also help us streamline our services also. So we know that we are licensed to do this, so we just do, so we don't go across board. I think as a nation, the country and the government and Ghana Civil Aviation have done a lot, because certain countries in Africa, to name a few, like Kenya, they don't allow drone operators to operate. And I think they have actually opened it up. It's just that I think that young people should try and get the right certification.
Speaking to Joy Business on the sidelines of the presentation ceremony, Head of Safety Regulations at the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority said supporting drone technology will help improve service delivery in some sectors.
The aviation industry is actually expanding, and also we are catching up on technology. Formerly, some aerial work strictly had to be done by aircraft. Proper or big aircraft. That's what I mean. One that is being flown by a pilot, or you have a pilot in the aircraft. And sometimes they need to fly low, trying to survey an area, either for mining purposes or for mapping. It becomes a bit dangerous sometimes, and it's also quite expensive. We are flying an actual aircraft. But you cannot compare the price of a drone to an actual aircraft. So it's cheaper. It makes it more affordable.
With the upsurge of drone usage in the country, Aviation Safety Inspector at the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, Senam Ataja, assured constant work was being done to enhance safety and security issues.
Security, we can never be done with security because it's an evolving threat, and we are always looking for countermeasures against the threats that are coming up every now and then. So that process is ongoing, and we've hit some timelines that we set for ourselves, but we are nowhere near done. It's going to be an ongoing process from now onwards.
For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklu.
Now, economic and financial journalists in West Africa sub-region have been tasked to support efforts by the West African Monetary Zone to implement the single common currency, the ECO, for the region. Minister of Information and Communications for the Gambia, Ebrima Sila, after a media training organized by the International Monetary Fund, charged the media to support the introduction of the currency. This is Ebenezer Sabuti's report.
Countries in the West African Monetary Zone are working towards the 2020 deadline to introduce a single currency, the ECO, as legal tender for all transactions among member nations. After several failed attempts and deliberations, the ECOWAS Steering Committee has set up 4 common criteria, which includes a single-digit inflation rate, a fiscal deficit of not more than 4% of GDP, a central bank deficit financing of more than 10% of the previous year's tax revenue and gross external reserves that can give import cover for a minimum of 3 months. After undergoing training to enhance business and economic reporting and issues related to the International Monetary Fund in the sub-region, Minister of Communications and Information for the Gambia, Ebrima Sila, urged journalists to do more to ensure that citizens have a better understanding of economic initiatives like the common currency for the region.
Now that you people are the rare bits, who have been exposed to this thing, is a very big opportunity, and we cannot thank the IMF more for, coming up at the right time when, in fact, West Africa is moving towards the direction of adopting a single currency, integrating our economies, at the same time, helping our journalists to break these complex issues into, very simple, language for our people to understand, for our businesses to adopt. So we are extremely very grateful for this opportunity, and I hope that from today when we read your papers and listen to your radio programs, or when we watch your TV programs, we will see some fundamental difference.
He tells Joy Business in an interview that the Gambia is committed to meeting the 4 criteria by the West African Monetary Zone before the 2020 deadline.
In the Gambia, we are on the right track. We are cutting down the inflation, and we hope that we will cut it to single digits. We also want to set up a resilient, strong, economy, so that at the end of the day, the shocks will be very limited when we join the single currency. But for us, this is a great opportunity because we are a small country. And stabilizing a currency is extremely very difficult when you are a small country and you are kind of like cushioned in a region where almost everybody is competing against you on anything that you want to do.
Ahmed Sese is the public relations officer for the Ministry of Finance of Sierra Leone.
The government is committed to that, but generally I think the ECOWAS need to put the necessary modalities in place. It has been in the pipeline for so long. If you look at the CFA countries in West Africa, they are West Africa Francophone CFA countries, because they all have this single currency. It helped in the area of inflation and exchange rates and those kind of things. So we are hoping that government and the ECOWAS Commission will see the need to fast track the whole of the single currency thing.
This initiative, coupled with the Free Continental Free Trade Agreement, is aimed at making Africa a single trading market. Ibn Sabute's report for Joy Business.
Now, the Crops Research Institute of the Center for Scientific and Industrial Research has developed new varieties of rice for cultivation. The long-grained and perfumed varieties are being introduced to local farmers to improve production of rice across the country. Nana Yaojima has more in this report.
Ghana spends over $10 billion on importation of rice and other food items annually for domestic and industrial consumption. Besides the inability of local rice farmers to meet domestic demand, many Ghanaians have preferential taste for foreign rice. Rice breeder Dr. Maxwell Dako Asante believes processing is the major factor affecting the quality of local rice.
All this rice, they are either the jasmine type, which is fragrant, it cooks soft, or the US long grain. And the farmer harvests it and he leaves it on the ground with water. And it will lose its grain quality. So we need people with money, we need people with investment to come and be able to maintain the grain quality.
Through research, new varieties are being developed to boost production. The latest include Emopa, Enapa, and Kentinka, all perfumed and long-grained quality, widely preferred by Ghanaians, as well as Impuntio, Boafo, and Date. President of Rice Millers Association in Achemanwa-Beja District, Maxwell Ayebi, gives perspective on current market demand. I'll be untruthful to say there is no demand for the local rice. As I stand here, people have called, but I have no rice. The rice I have are of low quality, and I can't sell that to them. Over 100 farmers from rice-growing areas in Achemanwa-Beja District.
Among the new varieties, I prefer the Boafo. It is long-grained and matures faster. I am impressed with those I have seen. It is perfumed and our consumers like it.
This is live on the marketplace. Let's now move on to one of our top stories today. The Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, has announced that electricity tariffs shall remain the same until the end of the second quarter of this year. In a statement released today, the PURC says the decision was taken due to critical emerging issues in the sector, which are expected to affect the final tariff setting. Amongst others, it cited the planned relocation of the car power ship plant, resulting in fuel switch savings from heavy fuel oil HFO to natural gas, and also the reduction in the price of natural gas are anticipated due to ongoing negotiations by the government. The statement noted that these matters are outside the purview of the PURC, but that their outcomes are likely to have a measurable impact on the Commission's decision. Now, joining us via phone to do some analysis on this is energy expert, Kwedu Opoku. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the marketplace. Marketplace, Kwedu.
Thank you, viewers.
All right, now, so I believe you are aware of the statement, the latest statement that has been released by the PURC, and this gives credence to your earlier assertions that the tariffs will not be changed. What's your initial take on this?
Yes, some of us who are been following the development in the electricity sector was of the view that there's a lot of development in the sector during this year. We're all aware that the ECG is being given out a concession to PDS. PDS are to do some investment in the sector to reduce losses, both technical and commercial, and that would go a long way to give the true meaning of what actual revenue comes to the company. Secondly, last year when the reduction was done, we were told that car power was moved from Tema to Takrady to go from HFO to use gas. That said, that has not been done within the period within which we were reviewing. So everybody felt that to now review the tariff further would not be fair to the sector. So we need to normalize some of these initiatives, move car power to Takrady. Let's see what the output will be in terms of the switch from HFO to gas. That will give us an indication of what the tariffs are supposed to be. Then when PDS, which is a new company taking over ECG, also able to invest some money, and within the year we'll be able to see what sort of investment they've done, what sort of technical losses and commercial losses they've been able to reduce. Next year, PURC would be able to, or maybe later part of this year, PURC will be able to look at all these holistic development and then take a decision whether there is a need to reduce the prices in the sector.
Now, is an upward review not in the offing? Because, definitely these are not the only variables that are considered. We also have inputs, cost of inputs, and so on. Now, come next or the second quarter of the year, if consumers get up to be slapped by an increase, will it not be quite damning, other than setting it now to see what's the way forward?
No, you're right. But the point is, how much would you reduce upward increase by? We are very 100% aware that one of the major factors of review is the dollar to the city. Though we collect revenues in cities, we pay the IPPs, the dollar equivalent of whatever they are paid in their PPA, which is the power purchase agreement they have with government. So yes, you are 100% right. Whatever we are mopping up in revenue is being affected by the depreciation of the city on the market. That is something that I'm sure PURC is 100% aware of. That said, there is also the other factor, which is there are more customers coming onto the grid day in, day out. Now, if last year we have, let's assume, 10,000 customers connected to ECG, you wouldn't have the same 10,000 in 2019. There are more people building houses, more people collecting meters. So if you are producing a certain megawatt, that megawatt...
Hello? I apologize for this particular hitch as we speak with energy expert Kwedu Opoku, who was sharing his thoughts on the current decision by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission not to change the electricity tariffs until the second quarter of this year. Let's move on to other stories. 2 international mining firms are to begin the process of exploration activities in the upper east and northern regions of the country. The firms Azuma Resources and Cardinal Resources have already secured operating licenses from the Minerals Commission and completed feasibility studies on the sites. The pre-feasibility study by Cardinal Resources at the Bolgatanga site confirms the project as one of Ghana's and Africa's most promising underdeveloped large gold assets. CEO of Ghana Chamber of Mines, Suleiman Kony, tells Joy Business this could be one of the biggest foreign direct investments into the sector. He's been speaking with Ebenezer Sabuti.
We know up north, and that's one of the good news stories around the mining industry, that we believe that Azuma Resources is a member of the chamber. They're into exploration. They have a mining list now, are looking for money to actually construct a mine. I think they are quite far advanced. And then you also have Cardinal Resources, also up north there. from what I see, from what I hear, potentially big mine as well. So on the back of the mining industry, we believe that we should be able to really open up the northern part of the country to more development, more infrastructure, so that the good people of the northern part of the country can also benefit.
Are they indigenous companies?
They are not indigenous companies. They are foreign direct investment. But then again, the question is, how do you ensure that in the value chain of these companies, we as a country play a major part? So how do we get our suppliers, for example, ready? How do you get people with the right skills and competencies to be able to help the mine, even from the construction of the mine, even up to production, playing a significant part of the whole process.
Azuma Resources rings a bell. Is it not a Ghanaian?
I'm told the story of the originator of the project naming it Azuma Resources because I think the person has a good relationship with Azuma, the boxer of repute in this country. It's not a Ghanaian company, but I think it gives us another brand, a local brand associated with the mining firm in this country.
But is the northern sector ready for support of this kind of investment?
But that's a good question, and gradually we are getting there. The last few years, the Chamber of Mines itself has been making forays into the northern part of the country. For so many years, we've been concentrating on where you have operating mines. I think about 3-4 years ago, we decided that it was about time we actually, extended our tentacles to that part of the country. And we've been engaging stakeholders over there. We met with the Northern Regional Minister and a few other, key stakeholders in that part of the country. And we keep harping the need for collaboration and cooperation, the need for infrastructure. But one of the key infrastructure requirements of mines has to do with energy. Mining is quite energy intensive, but we know that the VRA and Gridco are doing a great job extending electricity, to the northern part of the country. So, in due course, we believe that not too distant future, we believe that we should be able to have the requisite infrastructure for us to actually run optimally, mines optimally in the northern part of the country. We believe, again, that with the presence of a buoyant mining industry, for example, we should be able to expand infrastructure by way of airports, if it's possible. I know we have some airstrips and so on and so forth. Tamale, we have the Tamale Airport to facilitate transportation and so on and so forth. Of course, it would be ideal if we had a real system. That is a missing link. But I believe that once we are able to harness these resources, government will see it fit to expand the railway network to the northern part of the country.
Are you also asking for incentives?
Now, the government, with support from some local banks, has set aside more than $50 million to complete some abandoned housing projects in the country. That's according to Deputy Minister in charge of Housing, Frida Prempeh. She disclosed this in an interview at a joint venture agreement between two private firms to support government to roll out about 100,000 affordable housing units in the country. Bismarck Ausa was at the signing ceremony and has now this report.
Deputy Minister in charge of Housing, Frida Prempeh, has reiterated the President's commitment to complete all outstanding housing projects in the country before the end of his tenure. This follows several criticisms by a section of the public that successive governments normally abandon projects started by their predecessors.
The Senate has finished with the Boatima one. The Kumasi one is about 90% complete. And if you listen to the President in the State of the Nation address, he made mention that we've put together some local banks who are going to support us to roll out or finish that of Wa, Tamale and Koforidua to the tune of about $51 million. So we've worked behind the scenes. When we assumed office, we had to look through the documentations. People started the project, so we had to put things right before coming out.
Madam Frida Prempeh was addressing the media after the signing of a memorandum of understanding between private estate developers, HS Kodana Company Limited, and Turkish company, SIDA EPCM, to roll out about 100,000 affordable housing units in the country. Kofi Asante Entry is Chief Executive of HS Kodana.
We have partnered with able foreign and EPC contractors, that's engineering, procurement, and construction partners, and one of them is Sidri housing units, and the land that has been allocated as it is at Ojobi, just after Kaswa.
On his part, Maslam Dinta, the president of Turkish firm Sida EPCM, pledged commitment to engage more locals in the construction process.
Sayın Bakan Yardımcısına biz bütün kalple katılıyoruz.
As time goes on, they will take a lot of workers from here, they will teach them the new technology, and they will start most of the production when it comes to the materials that are going to be used for the construction.
Government continues to adopt several measures to bridge the current housing gap, which stands at over 1.7 million units. Bismarck Ausa, Joy Business.
Deputy Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Paul Abibu, is warning real estate developers against over-reliance on bank borrowings to finance their businesses. Mr. Abibu's call is coming at a time of rising cost of credit and some liquidity squeeze that has hit the market. He explained that this could cripple businesses as repayments of these loans from the banks might not be feasible due to current consumption patterns.
Well, as I mentioned, there's a whole ecosystem around borrowing. Part of it also becomes a structure of the borrowing. So, for instance, if you're doing a development project, you need some lead time, right? So there's the preparatory work that goes into it, and that can go anywhere from 3 months to 1 year. Then there's a construction phase, which takes some time as well. Then there's a sales phase. So if you think of that cycle, if you've borrowed at the beginning to fund the whole construction, you would have to have funds available to pay interest and principal repayments. And so sometimes that becomes a challenge, especially when you haven't reached sales yet. And that is why there's a lot of pressure to do early sales. So sometimes those repayments can be quite hefty, especially in a high interest rate environment.
And here we wrap up this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. Thanks so much for your company. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Have a good afternoon.